Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to a pre-Halloween episode of the Hogstye. It is I, your spooky host. That made Steve upset.
I wasn't upset. I'm just rolling my eyes at the ridiculous nature of the intro. It was not upsetting. It was like me laughing at you.
Well, and here with me are the two jack-o'-lanterns. Why? Because they have the same amount of hair as a jack-o'-lantern. Steve and Dave.
Now you're going to insult us.
Well, if you hadn't done the eye roll, I wouldn't have.
So who here is having a giant Halloween party or something like that?
No.
Not
No?
I.
Nah,
No.
me neither.
I mean, kids don't even trick-or-treat in my neighborhood, so yeah.
Well, they're
Well,
liable
I
to get
was-
shot in your neighborhood, Alex. That's why they don't do it.
Well, no, there are plenty of kids here. They all go to Capitol Hill where they give out the full-size candy bars. You know.
And they're not going to get shot.
Well, they
I
might
will,
still get
I
shot.
will
on
say
Capitol Hill.
we held a Halloween party here a couple of years ago, and it was my daughter's first year of community college, and we said, she met some new friends, and I was like, hey, you can invite a couple over. A couple came over, and a couple more came over, and a few more after that, and I
Right.
was just like, this is ridiculous, and then more, and then more. I was like, how many did you invite? And she was like, only a couple. I was like, I'm not sure you understand. I think your definition of a couple is different than mine.
What was the total damage? I mean, how many? in the end?
If I recall correctly, I think there were about 30 of her.
Oh, no.
No, I'm sorry, not 30, 20. About
you
20.
don't have a huge
came from
house,
that school.
right? Like you have
I have a house big enough because of the basement that can handle it,
okay,
but not a whole ton of room to where you can just
yeah.
freely move around without a problem having that many.
See-
Now that was just 20 with her side, and they can't, and like the family that we had coming over either. It was a
See,
bit crazy.
If 20 people or 30 or 40 people wanted to come to my house, I would not be at my house. I
Right.
just couldn't handle that. I'm not having that many people in the house. I don't even like more than like people I'm related to in the house, much less random strangers like that.
we generally don't have big gatherings anymore, but I'm in a townhouse. If we get more than 10 people here, it gets very cramped very quickly.
Well, I'm in Texas. We don't do basements in
Yeah.
the Houston area, so I don't have a basement to put people in.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of kids that come around and give candy for, it's a huge neighborhood for
Right.
trick-or-treaters, so I do
Sure.
that every year. I enjoy doing that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I that's the one thing I miss with this neighborhood. I love trick-or-treaters. Seeing
Right.
kids in their costumes.
Oh, yeah, I love doing
Uh,
that.
My mom
see-
was saying, well, you could come over here and do it at, your childhood neighborhood and just hand out candy. That's fine. I might do that. I don't know.
And that's the one thing about this house that more so my wife than myself that really bothers her. The fact that how we're secluded up, the kids they don't track their way up to our house for candy. So because what we always did at our other house is that we always had the front yard. It was almost like a trick or treat spooky walk to the candy itself. So I would dress up as a character. We had this music going, have these animation figurines going off and these lights and stuff like that. And we actually got more so than the adults that I was scared because I would like just sit in a chair, be still. And the next thing they come by, I just kind of come up real fast. And next thing you know, they're just stunned. And I walk towards them. And we had one where we had a couple coming to the house. And it was a guy and his girlfriend. And when I did that, he ran like a block down the street and
Left the girl,
her,
huh?
just left her there. She found it funny as hell, but I would just say it was.
I would say
I'm
they
like,
probably are going to be exes after that.
Yeah.
Thank you for protecting me and following your natural male instinct and protecting me from the danger.
I found out in my childhood neighborhood that there was one person who's still there who would go around with the trick-or-treaters and hand out little mini liquor bottles and drinks to all the adults, handing out candy.
Was
That
this
was-
in
Oh, nice.
Is this in Washington D.C. like in the city?
In
Alex?
Virginia, where I
Oh,
grew
Virginia?
up. Yeah. Yeah, they would just, because the adults are out there doing their thing. Here, have a cocktail. That kind
Well,
of
our
thing.
neighborhood used to have a giant street party every Halloween.
That's
And
nice.
so, like the parents who wanted to sit and drink would sit there, and then like typically the dads would walk all the kids around, which is what I would do because I don't drink.
Right. I think things like that are good for the community.
Sure.
I appreciate that kind of stuff.
Well, see, the other reason I walked around, I wouldn't have to be at the party. I was walking
Yeah.
kids around. That's
It's a win-win
much
for
better.
you.
Yeah, win-win, absolutely. I'd much
Yeah.
rather be with the kids than the adults anyway. Dogs and kids.
Yep.
I can do them. Adults, not so much. Adults suck.
You like things that are only about waist height. And how are you with little people or hobbits or dwarves?
Well, I've never met a hobbit. I'm fine with little people. I mean, people who have dwarfism, or
Right,
something, I'm
right.
fine with them. Hobbits, maybe not. I don't know. If I ever meet one, I'll let you know.
Man.
When is the next Lord of the Rings movie coming out?
Never.
Oh, dang it.
I never really ever got into the Lord of the Rings.
The movies, the first 3 movies were pretty good, and
I mean, they're all in like the AFI top 100 as like classic.
yeah, they were a bit more expensive than the books, a little bit,
Yeah.
but they were for the most part, and they were well done and well made. The second round of books, which was
the
based
prequel, yeah.
which was based on the book The Hobbit, were terrible.
Oh yeah.
And I have not seen the Amazon. I don't do Amazon Prime, so I haven't seen the show, but I heard the show is terrible too.
It's visually very good, but they couldn't base it off of any of the writing, so
Yeah.
they just made it up.
This is forever known as the Game of Thrones problem.
Yep. When you run out of story.
Don't make it up yourself.
Ugh.
Wait for the guy to write you the rest of it.
Right. Well, the problem
And
in this case is the guy who wrote it all has been dead for 50
Yeah, that's
years.
a problem. Yeah, but there's all kinds of other Tolkien
Yeah, I
stuff.
know. All right. Do we want to talk about speaking of torturously long things?
Let's do.
Yeah, let's talk about that game last week real quick. Guys, I will preface this to our listeners. We kind of made a call that we're not going to belabor this game just because we want to talk about some of the other bigger stuff going on with the team now. But we do have to talk about the Giants' loss because boy was that ugly. First off,
I'm gonna make everybody suffer through these stats because I've got a really good one. If you read my takeaways column this week, you'll know what I'm talking about.
I think I know. I know it. So
They see Dave didn't read. I can tell that look on his face. I know you didn't read it. Okay, so I'm going somewhere.
I was lucky to get the article out to you like I did.
Plan better, man. Come on.
Dave's got a lot going on. I get it.
Okay, Sam Howell was 22 for 42, 249 yards, 6 sacks, and one interception. Quarterback rating of 60.5. The running backs room as a group had 76 yards for 19 carries for 76 yards. Rodriguez 7 for 31, 4.4 yards per carry. Brian Robinson 8 for 23, 2.9 yards per carry. Antonio Gibson 2 for 7. Terry McLaurin was the leading receiver, 6 for 90. And here's the best. Obviously, we all know. I'm not even going to add. Tressway outkicked the entire offense. We know that.
He might have done it on a punt,
But I will ask this. Did Tressway double the offensive output?
Wait, are Sam Howell's sacks counted in what you're factoring in?
We can do it either way you want.
That's a good question.
If you want to give the offensive benefit of the doubt, no, you get the gross yards. If you
I do know what the total yardage for the team was, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay, well let's go with net because it's kind of not fair to so net passing yards because they've got to own
net
the
passing
sacks.
yards.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no because I think I know I remember what you said Tress did, and if I'm doing the math right, I think it's under.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely under. Just, I mean, I'm looking at your takeaway now because keep in mind, I only saw a portion of the game. Thankfully, my daughter got married on Sunday. It took me away from that torturous mess.
It was much more important for that than watch any game.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
a lot more fun.
Tressway did not double the offensive output of the Washington team, but he might as well have. He got close. So 273 total net offensive yards. Tress had 10 punts for 513 yards, which is about 30 yards under double, okay? But and where you guys saw in my takeaways, this is actually one of the best punting days in NFL history.
It's up there.
Yeah. So it's there were 47 bigger games in the history of the NFL than 10 punts, 513 yards. Tressway has now 3 of them. 3 of the games over 500 yards punting.
Right.
Which is 500 yards or more.
I don't know if that's a thing you want to accomplish in your
I think it's damn impressive, man. Like
price.
My team has been so pathetic that my punter has had 3 games over 500 yards. That's impressive.
Yeah. Did you look up who has the most?
Yeah, I got it in here.
Okay.
It's a guy named Leo Araguez, 1998, punted for 709 yards in Week 6, Raiders.
Goodness.
Wow.
709 yards, I think. Well, that definitely beats out most passing yards in a game.
And to be clear, that was way above and beyond.
Yeah.
The next biggest game was 565 yards in 1967. So that was a total outlier.
So that's like the whole Wilt Chamberlain scoring 100 a game.
Yes,
game.
yes.
For punters.
Oh, but seriously,
Wow.
Cressway's got 3 of these games.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. And by the way, he was also the last time an NFL punter hit 500 yards was Tressway.
Oh, I mean, there's no question. He is the Kobe Bryant of punters. Right?
Yes,
Like,
yes, he is.
He's just going to keep on making big days.
So basically, I read all those stats just to get to the awesome Tressway
Yes. Yeah.
Tressway numbers. So there you go. That's stats.
How embarrassing.
10 punts for 513 yards. That's just wow.
It really is. It is an eye popper stat.
So
it was a rough game. It really, like, we can start with the first half. The team did nothing. They did nothing good. Sam Howell got sacked 5 times in the first half. The Giants doubling their sack total in 30 minutes of play. And they obviously got more in the second half.
they had 46 net offensive yards at halftime.
Yeah,
Net.
I think they had 3 completed passes.
Well, it was 5. Howell was 5 for 14.
Oh, it was 5.
60,
Sorry.
60 yards, 5 sacks. So the net, so it was 60 gross, 15 net at halftime, and then 31 rushing yards,
Yeah.
of which 11 were Howell's. So 20 rushing yards.
It was just the most limp offense. They did nothing to adjust. I think for those of us who were excited about the enemy, I think the honeymoon period's definitely over.
I'd like to point out that I was never that excited about Eric Bieniemy.
Sure. But for those of us
very
who were,
intrigued.
the honeymoon is over.
Yeah.
I do think he has some positives to how he coaches, but his X's and O's and his game time adjustments lacking at this point.
Yeah, I think, with the marriage analogy, I think the couple had a fight on the honeymoon is what's happened to Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
Now he's sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
Look, when you have a massive amount of the offensive line sucks. Okay. I mean, we saw they were this was the worst, in my opinion, this is the worst the offensive line has looked all year, especially considering it was the Giants. And so what did he do to adjust? They did adjust a little bit in the second half, which is why things improved a little bit.
Right.
But for Christ's sake, I mean, look, Washington is a middle of the pack running team in terms of yards per attempt. They're not bad. I mean, overall 4.2 yards per attempt. Yeah, Chris Rodriguez probably needs to get more carries and everything. For all the love of all that is good and holy, run the ball. I mean, the guy is allergic to running. 48 pass attempts, including the 6 sacks, and then 17 carries with the running backs. That's ridiculous. And when you're a team like what, that's just crazy. So, I mean, that's I just don't. I'm so unimpressed with Eric.
His pass to run ratio is awful. And what I think I'm at least really noticing is this is just becoming Spurrier 2.0 with his pass happy. He doesn't protect the quarterback very well. Chuck and duck. Uh, Elements. Because I think when Bieniemy came in here, a lot of people, Andy Reid's system, he's a West Coast guy. This is not a West Coast offense at all. They're just running spread. 90% of these sacks, when you watch the replays, it seems like he's just having every receiver run a streak route.
It's more like the Dollar General version of the St. Louis Greatest Show on Turf offense.
It really is.
But the Dollar General version of it.
Yeah. Hey, everyone just runs straight 9 routes every down, and someone will get open.
Because it's crazy because when he runs a quicker game, utilizes more of the intermediate routes and brings in the screen game, especially the wide receiver screen game, and and uses these jet sweeps and stuff. When he does use that, the offense moves efficiently. But it's like he'll do that for a series or two, and the offense might even have to score a touchdown. Next thing you know, next series you're getting Hal getting like 2 crucially awful sacks because the receivers are all taking these long developing routes.
Yeah.
And with this offensive line, the way that Ron Rivera masterfully constructed it, you can't. It doesn't match up. It's just ridiculous. I feel bad for Sam Howell. I don't understand how the guy is even standing upright right now.
Yeah, how is he upright? Yeah.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Well, I don't think the play calling. Washington, by the way, is last in the NFL in sacks at 40. Just FYI, we're at 40 sacks. There's not a lot of layered passing route combinations.
No, there's not.
And so that's what you guys are talking about. It's these slow developing plays when you've got guys running down the field on or like long in routes and all these things, fly patterns. The guy needs an outlet valve at a minimum. But ideally, one thing Jay Gruden was good at was designing. He had a lot of flaws, but he was pretty good at designing layered passing concepts.
He was a huge believer in low, medium, high on every play.
Yeah, he was.
And he was a huge believer in you have to be able to get the low guy open every time. That was his whole concept.
Yeah, and
Sean McVay copied it very well,
Yeah, when you have a terrible offensive line, maybe you ought to think about that. And Dave, you had some stats. So our buddy Mark Tiller, who has been on this show, or Tyler rather, Andrew Wiley, first in the NFL in opponent sacks allowed at 7, fourth in the NFL in blown blocks with 16. This is from a tweet Mark sent out on the 24th. Sadiq Charles tied for third with 6 sacks allowed.
Yeah.
Among interior offensive linemen, worse than the NFL. In this case, the higher the number, the worse it is.
Yeah, right.
And yet, at the same time, these idiot sites like PFF say this is a top 10 passing.
This is why I don't like PFF. Because the way they do it, we tried to get that guy on, and he wouldn't talk about it.
I've been arguing with that guy online.
Oh, have you?
They are so deeply flawed when it comes to pass blocking analytics, and they will not admit it.
Yep. See, the biggest problem is, and what I alluded to, I think like two shows ago is, Sam Howell may have 2.2 seconds to throw the ball, but what he doesn't have in that time is a clean pocket to step up into and a pocket that's not collapsing in front of him to where he can't even get himself set after he takes a 5-step drop. Where these other offensive lines that are just above them, most of the rush are pushed to the outside, the interior holds the line fairly well, and the quarterback has room to move. Sam Howell doesn't have that. So that's the difference in the times that they have, is the fact that, you get 2.2 seconds, but they're barely holding that line and they're being pushed back slowly into Howell.
And no one's getting open in 2.2 seconds.
Exactly.
By the
what
way,
I saw
it would be
against
hard to get open even on a good route in 2.2 seconds.
and what
That's
I
not a
saw
lot of
against the
time.
Giants were
Absolutely.
a jailbreak over and over and over again. And
Yeah.
I missed the first 5 minutes of this game too. I didn't go back to watch it after it came out so badly. But it was a jailbreak repeatedly. It wasn't just one, player, one elite edge rush or something. It was repeatedly all over the place. And the quarterback doesn't know where to go when you have that.
No.
Right.
No. And look, he's not been perfect, but when you add up, you don't have talent on the line. Your quarterback is young and holding the ball too long. You got zero creativity in play calling when these things are starting to happen. Your receivers aren't getting open. No hot routes. No escape valve. And then you don't have a good blocking running back or a good blocking tight end on this roster.
And you mentioned hot routes. When I watch these games, maybe you guys have noticed this, but I have not noticed on any form of consistency of recognition what they're doing on defense, and then he's making a quick audible at the line to take advantage of that hot route that's there in place for depending upon what that defense is showing. So you have I don't even see any of that at all. Maybe I'm just missing it
No,
entirely.
I think you're
but
right.
from what
I don't-
Alex is saying, I'm
seeing
pretty
it. But I don't think he has a guy to do it with. Like
probably not.
Who's going to be your target for those?
But also, some of this may be on the center. We don't really know who's calling the protection.
Sure. That's true.
Some of it might be
when
that
it comes
the center
to protection,
sucks.
yeah, that's a huge factor. And Robbie used to tell us about that stuff all the time.
Yeah, Robbie obviously knows a lot about our old colleague Robbie Duncan. I mean, so it may be a combination of a lot of things. Because I think it's at this point, some of these linemen are objectively just bad at blocking. They just cannot pass block.
And you see how much we miss Chase Rouillet.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Because you're talking about, you're calling out for a guy who calls out protections at the line and so forth. I mean, he was fantastic at that. Nick Gates is just horrendous.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. So you can a combination of these guys block badly. The quarterback is slow to recognize, a slow delivery, and then you have a center who probably is not doing very well. It's hard to know, but the combination of all these things mean disaster. And by the way, I mean, we need a little bit more effort though. These guys are on a pace of a little over 97 sacks in the season. We need to get to 100.
Well, so Steve, I think we've had two teams now double their sack totals versus
That's great. That's great.
And,
I mean,
we're going to be playing the Eagles. They have 25 sacks on the season. Now, if they can double it, Steve, you're in good shape.
We need like 7 or 8 from the Eagles
to get back on pace for your 100.
Yeah. We need to get. It'd be great to have like a 10 sacker maybe to get us over it and have a little wiggle room in there.
We still have 2 games against the Cowboys. Those will be big.
That's going to be a disaster. Yeah. But that's the fundamental problem with the offense. Obviously, we know that. And against the Giants, once again, what I didn't see is like a firm commitment to the running game.
Well,
it's like it's the running game is a distraction every once in a while with this guy.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. And like they were never down enough to where you need to go to an all passing offense. They were only down by 2 touchdowns at most in this game.
Well, I mean, to be fair, when they do run it, it's pretty ugly.
But you keep doing it, and it wears defenses down. And by the way, Chris Rodriguez did look pretty good.
Yeah. He looked good. Robinson had 1 or 2 good runs, but most of his were, a yard and fall down.
Right.
And you know what the irony of this is that not only do we have a defensive coordinator and a head coach that are former linebackers and our linebackers suck, is that we have an offensive coordinator who is a former running back and he's allergic to running the ball. I mean, how do we end up with a staff like this?
Yeah, exactly. The defensive coach and the head coach are linebackers. They don't want linebackers, and then the running backs coach doesn't like running backs, and the running.
It's a very interesting point.
It's
Dave.
the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Well, I think deep down they wish that they played end, and he wishes he was a quarterback. Maybe that's what's going on.
Hey, isn't there a bigger issue here? I mean, we've talked about
There's a lot of bigger issues.
Yeah.
So you know what? One thing that it kind of went through my head watching some some of the highlights people post from all 22 of this offense. How much of this is also Eric Bieniemy's used to working with Patrick Mahomes and elite top of the league receivers, so he didn't have to worry about creatively getting guys open when he had Tariq Hill, when he has Travis Kelsey. Those guys know how to get open. They just do it. No, it doesn't matter what you call; they'll get open. And now he's got normal players, good in cases like Terry, and but they're not Tyreek Hill.
Well, it's kind of, I mean, it's a bit of a chicken and egg argument
Yeah.
to a certain extent because, were the 80s Lakers great because Pat Riley was the head coach or because Magic Johnson was the best point guard in NFL history?
Right.
What's the truth? Was Joe Montana the greatest because of Bill Walsh or was it because he was Joe Montana? Was it some combination of everything? Probably the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Oh, of course.
Here, what we have here is obvious defects in certain aspects of the team that have not been corrected. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But when you have that as a game planner, perhaps you ought to game plan to your strengths. Why, they did a little better when they had the quarterback roll out a little and started using screen passes more. I don't know why you don't do that more. When your offensive line sucks, why don't you use screenplays and rollouts, design rollouts? How about
should be your
that?
bread and butter, and you're not.
Yeah. If you're not going to run, at least do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually the modern equivalent of running the ball for a lot of these coaches now.
To some extent. Yeah.
Is the screen game. All right, let's talk about the defense real quick. They played better, but you're also playing a fifth string line, a backup quarterback, and you only allowed them to have 14 points, but that was too much for the offense to beat. So
yeah, by the way, I didn't say it, but David Mayo had 11 tackles. He was the leading tackler, and then the sacks were Montez Sweat, Gleek Hudson.
Good for David Mayo.
And then 2 for Chase Young. This was probably Chase Young's best game since the rookie year.
Oh yeah, well, it's his all-time high in sacks.
Yeah.
And that Giants offense, how many chunk plays did they get? As in like 20+ yard type plays at Giants offense.
Not a ton, but give me a second here and I'll tell you.
I think they had 4 or 5. They had a few.
Which to me, they haven't done much of that most of the year, and they do that against his defense. I mean, they were, from what little I watched and I saw the game, there were just things in that game that if they had a better offensive line in front of them, I think the Giants.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're fine. Go ahead.
No, so chunk plays. Tyrod Taylor had a long carry of 20. Saquon Barkley had 1 of 12. And then passing plays, Jalen Hyatt, 42 yards. Saquon had a 32-yarder, and then there were 3 of 20 yards or more.
Yeah, so they had 5.
Plays.
So
yeah,
but none 59. There were no 59-yard touchdowns.
No.
So.
Right. It's just you're going against an offense that just hasn't done anything all year. And even chunk plays for them, from what I can recall, the Giants are few and far in between to begin with, and you let up that many. I mean, granted, it was no 50+ yarders really. I mean, which is good, I guess. It's fine, but I still think if they didn't have such a makeshift offensive line for the Giants, this game could have been far worse.
Hey, I got a newsflash for you. They didn't do much in this game. It's just Washington was that bad.
Yeah,
right.
My big thing with Washington's defense was when Cody Barton went out, I think the defense got much better.
You want to hear a crazy stat?
Sure.
Can anybody take a guess at the total number of punting yards between the two teams?
Well, we already have
1,100 yards
for our team.
513 for Washington.
I'll say 1,100 yards.
No, that would mean New York did 700 yards or something, 600 something yards. No, I'm gonna go 800 yards.
No, you both are wrong. It's 908.
All right.
Because Jamie Gillian had eight punts for 3. Yeah, Alex would have got the prices right. 8 punts or 395 yards. So between the two of them, that comes out to 908 yards.
That's
Right.
a lot.
That's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. Well, and the wind was keeping those balls in the air. I did notice that with the punts. Like those were some
Just the idea that there were 18 punts in this game alone.
Yeah.
Forget the yardage.
yeah.
18 punts.
It's a terrible game when that happens.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
That was just beyond painful. What are the positives of defense? I mean, I got to hand it to Chase Young, like we said.
Yep.
Great game by his standards. Lots of pressure, 2 sacks, consistent pressure. He was beating Pugh off the line, regularly.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. And they didn't give up massive plays. I'd like to point out, I told everybody in my game preview, Darren Waller was the one to watch. What happens?
Yeah,
7 receptions, 98 yards and a touchdown.
He had the best day. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah. The only other, I mean, Hudson got a sack. Good for him, Khaleke Hudson.
Is he still on the team?
Apparently.
Even Mr. and Mrs. Hudson weren't aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was there. He did something. Not a whole lot.
Martin had two tackles.
He got hurt too.
Yeah. He got hurt and nobody noticed.
Well, I mean, look, they don't play the rookies enough for anyone to notice. That's the problem.
Now, I think I sent you guys this tweet. I'm not sure, but I know since Chase Young's came back from injury this year, he's ranked 11th in total pressures on quarterbacks this year. So Chase Young is actually having a very good year this year. So the only problem is what we constantly always talk about is that there's nothing at that second level to finish off the pressures. I mean, you have San Francisco with Warner. You have what's his face on Philadelphia, the Temple. You're Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick. Even though they call him an edge rusher, he's still kind of more of a traditional outside linebacker.
Yeah.
He's there to finish off the pressures that defensive front gives. We don't have that guy. So and that's one of our biggest problems right there. I mean, I know we talk about it like almost every game, but still.
Well, I mean, look, neither their edge rushers are speed guys. That's a huge factor. I've always kind of wondered why they went with this move where Chase Young and Montez Sweat, decent edge rushers, but they're both more like power than they are speed. And I think you really do need to have that combination of one guy being the strong guy, one guy being the quick one.
Chase Young is not fast in terms of sprinting speed, but what he does have is a really quick jump off the line.
He does.
He's fast in 5 yards.
Yeah.
He is very fast in 5 yards, faster than Sweat. But I mean, Chase has been inconsistent his entire career, so I give it time. But I mean, I do think he's had a positive impact on the defense in 7 games. For what that's worth, I think he was had the best impact of any of them. Of the front 4 in this game.
Oh yeah. He had a positive overall impact finally in a game. So to me, the interesting thing is, with Chase Young and Montez Sweat is now we're seeing a lot of rumor mill about trade options with these two because it sounded like Washington's quietly been talking to other teams about maybe moving one, if not both. There was a report today from the Post that said that they had actually gotten an offer for Montez Sweat. It didn't say what it was, or it doesn't sound like the team was interested in what was offered. But they are clearly in a let's move one of these guys or both these guys and get some draft capital because I think, aside from the fact that there's going to be wholesale changes to the coaching staff, I think they know that even if there weren't, you couldn't keep both at this point.
Well, I mean, you can't spend all the money on the defensive line.
Right.
They can't, even if they
Ron
wanted
Rivera
to.
really, really wants to, though. Steve.
He does,
Yeah, right.
But even if you wanted to, you can't. And so I don't think you can have both of them signed to massive deals.
Yeah.
Between the two, if you ask me, if you have to trade one, I'd trade Chase Young. I think Montez Sweat is more consistent. He's played more games. Chase Young has missed a ton of time for injury.
Yeah.
He just reminds me too much of LeVar Arrington. Kind of, he's all about, like LeVar is all
Freelancing.
about LeVar.
Yeah.
Chase is all about Chase. Freelances a lot, elite, athleticism and all this stuff. But so if it were me, I would trade. If that's the choice, I would trade Chase.
Well, if Sam Fortier is right in his feel he has around the league, I'm not trading either one of these guys because you're talking about getting what he's saying. The feel in the league is I think a 5th or 6th round pick, and maybe at the absolute very best you would get a 3rd round pick for either one of these guys. If you let them walk, you get a compensatory. You most likely get a compensatory 3rd round pick, at least for Chase Young and Chase Young.
Well, both of them are 1st round picks. Both
Right.
of them.
Yeah, but comp is based off of what people pay them, not where you drafted them. So
yeah,
I don't
so-
see either getting a top 20.
But I think they would get. I don't know. I mean, I kind of disagree. I think that somebody would overpay, especially for Chase Young, just because of his draft status, because of his. Yeah, somebody's going to give him a big contract. Whether or not he deserves it is another matter. So, I mean, I think you could at least beat, a 5th or 6th round pick in a trade. Yeah, I wouldn't trade him if that's the market value. No, I wouldn't trade him for that.
Right, but don't forget, then you also really can't spend that kind of money on somebody else. That's the other part of the comp equation. Is if you let Chase walk, he gets 15 million, and you take somebody for 15, you get nothing.
Well, I get it, but I mean,
I'm explaining more for our general audience.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you're not trying to lecture me of all people. I get it, but I mean, of all, I mean, is Ron going to do that?
No, Ron doesn't care.
I think the ultimate question is, will Josh Harris and the ownership group let him do that? Will they
That's
allow
a tough
him?
one.
Yeah,
I think you would be in the better position to know because you've watched. So the question to me, what you're posing is the owner going to be involved in personnel decisions? That seems to me kind of what you're asking.
No, not necessarily in it. Well, just to be clear, I say no in terms of as in the Dan Snyder effect type of personnel decisions. No. As far as preparing for a new general manager and so forth, I don't think that Ron Rivera, I don't think he's going to allow Ron Rivera to make moves with guys of that caliber and Chase Young and so forth. Being as that fact he might be on his way out, and he may not even trust what he might get in return for him anyway. But see, now you're got a double-edged sword now because if you don't allow him to do anything and you let him walk, and he goes off and signs a big deal, and then you, like you said, Alex, and you sign a deal that matches that, now you get absolutely nothing for it. So now it's like, what do you do? I have a solution that I don't think would work because I think you got to wait till the end of the year for that. But that's probably later on.
Let's the elephant in the room here. I've said repeatedly I'm not on Twitter anymore, but what I have kind of gleaned and what you guys said is the fan base has turned this week on Ron Rivera. And Dave, you posed the question of whether he should be, whether he should keep his job. Alex, you had this massive blown up tweet, the Ron Rivera
putting a throwaway who's on the bandwagon to fire.
I put something up that was in more Steve phrase that apparently, got some attention.
It got some reaction too, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, the question isn't should he get fired? He definitely should get fired. But when? I'm not a fan of firing coaches in the middle of the season because I think it doesn't. You're not going to save the season, and it creates chaos. And so, what's the point? Right. So that's my thought. So my thought is let him ride it out to the end because I don't see what it would accomplish to fire him early.
Well, the one thing I will say is I was listening to Kevin Sheehan the other day, and I agree with him 100%. It makes no sense to make a move to go from Ron Rivera to Jack Del Rio. It's just a lateral move. It makes absolutely no sense to even do that. Just keep Ron Rivera on board. But so what's next? Eric Bieniemy? You're gonna go with Eric Bieniemy, a guy who's having a hard time establishing an offensive identity, making a cohesive game plan week in and week out, and he can't even consistently run a game plan every single week. Oh, and by the way, now we're going to make you interim head coach for the rest of the year, even though you're not handling the OC responsibilities. Now, he could be a great head coach, sure, but who's going to now call the plays if he's going to become the head coach?
Yeah, I don't know though.
It's just it's not going to work for Bieniemy.
I mean,
you're not going to make a lateral move to Jack Del Rio, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's just why I don't see the point in firing a head coach in week 8. This doesn't accomplish anything unless the coach is like charged with a crime or something. He robbed a bank,
or he resigned,
he assaulted somebody. Yeah. He had a health issue. I mean, when you're trapped into it, but just like the coach isn't performing and you're going to save the season by bringing in an interim, Del Rio or Bieniemy or whoever, that's not going to do anything. Not going to save anything. So.
My thing is, and I'm with you, you probably don't want to do it now. Once they're like knocked out of the playoffs officially, that's when I think all bets are off and you might see something.
Why though? What's the point?
Well, in the argument has always been if you think Eric Bieniemy might be a good head coach, see what he has.
But let me tell you something. Remind people, who is the GM of this team?
Right.
Ron Rivera is the GM of the team. Okay?
Right.
So And I think based on what you have told us, Dave, about the Eagles or the 76ers and the Devils, he's brought GMs in and he's selected a GM and he's let the GM build the team.
Yes. That's
probably what he's going to do here, and that's what a normal owner will do. A normal owner is not going to say, "Yeah, you're stuck with Eric Bieniemy," and just fans are excited about him and everything, but. Listen, there's a reason he doesn't get an interview. He doesn't get jobs.
Right.
And so you may have whoever as the interim coach, but there's going to be a whole new staff. A new GM is not going to be saddled with you must take Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's going to be totally new staff next year.
I'm really wondering what is going on with the ownership team when it comes to the GM thing, because they have to look at this and know they need to bring in somebody at this point.
This is a throwaway year, okay? I mean, it's the first year they came in at the bitter end. It's a throwaway year.
But, Steve, I mean, as well as any of us, you don't want to bring in a GM, like, right at the start of the offseason, ideally. You probably have people you're already talking to see what they think of the roster, what their plans would like. You've got to be formulating that stuff now mid-season.
You think?
I think they're talking to people at least by now, right?
They may have
quite possible.
They may have some names at least, yeah.
And the people they're talking to probably aren't associated with the team. They could just be general managers that were formerly general managers, they retired or whatever. Just kind of get a feel for what they think is going. Because I don't think they can talk to the assistant GM or player personnel guy.
No, they can't do that
right now.
No,
they can't
do anything like that yet anyway. So, but there are other avenues they can go. Just
but
they
this
got
may
McClone
be
for years for stuff like that.
That may be a reason to fire Rivera a little early if they have a candidate they want to bring in.
Someone who's not on another team, yeah.
Yeah, right. Then that may be a reason to let him go a few weeks early.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, the hard part is, of course, going back to the trade thing a little, like you said, we only have a few days till the trade deadline, and you got a lot of guys in the last years of their deals where if you're thinking you need to burn it down and start over, like, get what you can for some of these guys.
But Rivera is not going to burn it down.
And that's the problem. Rivera's not, and you're kind of stuck in this situation.
He's not that way anyway. He wouldn't do it regardless.
I know.
Look at his comment in the press conference. He said, we're not here to trade for a bunch of guys. We're not firing a bunch of guys, and we're here to develop this young team. It's only taken 4.5 years.
He actually said, apparently, I didn't watch it. You're rolling your eyes. Your whole column was about his comment that something to the effect of just have patience.
Yeah.
Yes.
He said, crazy. We're trying to develop a young core here. You're in year 4. Why are you taking, like, and it does blow my mind. I feel like we see this a lot with coaches. There's a formula of, like, when you can do certain things in your coaching tenure. Right. Developing the young core is year 1 and year 2. You can't be doing this in year 4 unless you had a Super Bowl run. Like, you went to the Broncos and had Peyton Manning. Like, you don't develop the young core right now.
Well, I used the Eagles and the Lions as perfect examples in my article.
Mhm.
The Eagles under Nick Sirianni, not only did he make the changes offensively to adjust to Hurts' skill set, I mean the moves that Howie Roseman did to fit Sirianni's
Yeah.
coaching profile and how and his philosophy he made in the process, and he developed everything that and Nick Sirianni and his staff developed what Howie Roseman gave them, and in second year, what did they only end up doing? Go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, but what did they do just before
Gamble,
Sirianni
people
got
thought
there?
he was going to be out of the league in year one because he was corny. What's that?
They did stockpile a ton of draft picks his first year
Yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely.
Like right when he got there.
Yeah. So it was
But
like
that's just not going to happen here, though.
Yeah.
no,
Right?
unless you get the right guy in place.
Yeah, but that's got to be next year.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. It's just frustrating because you look at the roster. You're telling me you couldn't get something for Jacoby Brissett? If you're not going to play him, I would be trying to get something for him.
Well, you have to have a backup quarterback. Who's your backup quarterback?
I'm going with
Jake
Fromm.
Fromm.
We're losing at all these
Jake,
games anyway. I'm just
You
going.
have to have a pro quarterback. I mean, you have to. You can't trade Jacoby Brissett. Okay, you have to have an actual professional quarterback who can competently play the position at some level. You have to have that, especially when your quarterback has been sacked 40 times in 7 games.
Yeah. Well, that
Jake
that is fair.
Fromm.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't.
Well, you got the Wildcat option.
Have Logan Thomas go back to quarterback, maybe.
Oh well, I would trade Logan Thomas too. He could probably net you something.
But they're just not going to trade anybody. I mean, maybe they'll do a deal or two, but this is not like
that's
burn
not who
it
Ron
down.
Rivera is. I know.
No, no.
You know,
I don't think there's any chance he's going to trade Chase Young, even if he should.
No,
he won't.
absolutely not. And see, and that's what separates Ron Rivera, the GM, and Howie Roseman, the GM. I mean, it's frustrating, and it's very tiresome seeing what he's doing while our division rival just continues to add the right free agents, build the foundation, develop the foundation, move foundational pieces to get draft capital down the road, and only, oh, by the way, get two top 10 prospects, last year in the draft. It's like, I mean, come on, man, stop it.
Sounds like the general manager Rivera is really psyched about the job that coach Rivera has done.
Yeah, probably.
General manager Rivera really believes in Coach Rivera's plan.
He high fives him every day. It's very
high fives
awkward.
himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he does it with a mirror, Steve. He doesn't clap.
I was gonna say,
he goes to a mirror and he just
how do you high five yourself? You clap. Well, and also, I mean, Ron has never talked about his cancer battle. I don't know if
heavily.
That's draining, and I mean, is he still with it? I mean, I don't know.
Well, look,
look at his reactions on the sidelines half the time. It seems like he's checked out of every game before halftime.
That's kind of where that's kind of what I meant. I mean, it's like, is he really with it? I mean, is he just there in name and he's beat down by health? And I don't know.
I mean, look, and in his to give him some defense, yes, he went through that. They went through the whole COVID situation that the whole league had to deal with. They went through the name change, the ownership change. He went through a lot as a head coach here. I'm gonna give him some, credit for handling that all pretty darn well. But when it comes on the field stuff, the performance isn't there. It's just not.
Well,
and we all know it now.
It's the same things that we, how much leeway is this guy going to get on his offensive line and the linebackers?
Yeah.
And the running backs, by the way. I mean, we all think Brian Robinson's a great story and everything, but he's yet to find a running back who's worth the tinker's damn. Maybe Chris Rodriguez can do it. We'll see. He's hadn't had very much shot, but Brian Robinson hasn't had that much success. As much as we like him and as much as we respect him coming back from being shot in gangland somewhere in D.C., he hasn't had that much success.
Yeah, and the other thing, I mean, look at the just what they've prioritized. they don't spend draft capital on the offense. I know Jahan Dotson was a first-round pick, but
Beyond him, though.
yeah, beyond him, it's third, fourth, fifth rounders all throughout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, why do you think your offense is struggling? You don't prioritize them at all.
Their defense has struggled too at times, just for the
Oh,
record.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. The defense, I think, is ranked 30th this year, 29th. It's really low.
Yeah, well, it depends on how you measure it.
Sure.
So,
yeah, they're not good.
Is there any chance this team, we got to preview the Eagles?
Yeah.
Is there any nobody is excited about that? Yeah. Listen, this is our job. Is there any chance they can beat the Eagles? Let me just spew on this. Washington's history in 2023 is that they've gone on, off, on, off, on, off. They had a really bad off game. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think they're actually going to beat the Eagles, but I think we actually are going to see a slightly better game this week. And so I think they probably will play the Eagles much tougher than they did the Giants. So to me, keys to the game are kind of the same as before. Pass protect Sam Howell, establish a running game, move the pocket, and stop A.J. Brown. There's your keys to the game. A.J. Brown had 190 yards or something like that in the last game.
Is he still on pace to be the top receiver all time?
I don't know about all time.
You mean for a single season?
Yeah, I'm sorry, single season. Yeah.
That's still Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
But Brown has had a streak of just ridiculous games. Okay, let me real quick pull up his. Nobody stopped him all year, basically.
No.
Okay, so 137 yards, 131 yards, 127 yards, 175. That was Washington. 131. Then in the Minnesota game 2 weeks ago, he was stopped, 29 yards, and then this week 79 yards. So he's killed people all year, with the exception of the Vikings.
Yeah.
Washington needs to figure out how to stop this guy. They did a horrible job of it last time, but the guy who's playing horrible is on the bench now. So I think they need to stop him. They need a running game. They need to move the pocket. They need to not get the quarterback sacked a billion times. It ain't that complicated in terms of the plan. It's very complicated to do it. But to me, that's what they need to do. But I think they can. I mean, no.
They can maybe pull off one of the things they need to do. Like they'll figure one of these out, and I think
they'll play tougher because that's kind of their history.
They played them tough last time.
Yeah.
There was that.
Right. That was the other thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. So, but you guys certainly speak up.
I mean, I think you're pretty much right on that. There's a litany of things they would have to do differently, and I don't see a solution for how you fix this offensive line pass blocking issue. I don't think there is one.
Not against the Eagles, or
not against the Eagles, not against anybody. And I would say you could put them against the worst defense in football, but they've already gone multiple times against teams that have been in that list when it comes to pressure.
They've played some of the worst sacking teams in the league, and
they made them look.
Yeah.
It's been pathetic. You're not making any changes. Ron Rivera, Dave, what was the quote you said? Ron Rivera said they're looking into it, right? Like,
what's that?
In terms of fixing the line, he had like some really pathetic quote, honestly.
Oh, are you talking about what I sent today to you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, let me pull that up real quick, exactly what that said.
Yeah, it was. They have no sense of urgency about fixing this, which is just incredible. Like,
what are they gonna? How are they gonna fix it this year? Somebody tell me what is the urgent move they could take.
So when he was asked if Ron Rivera said that there were a lot of things they are discussing, asked if Tyler Larsen might be used more, Rivera said the same thing. A lot of things we're discussing and talking about things we feel can help us. But if you think Tyler Larsen's a guy that's going to help you, if you think Ricky Stromberg is going to be the guy that's going to help you, where Daniel's healthy enough that he's going to come in and help you, right? You know what? Philly just might double their sack total.
The only guy that they have on the bench that's worth anything is Cornelius Lucas.
Right.
And you could make an argument that maybe if he comes in and you make a move at right tackle, that'll help. But it doesn't help with the interior pressure problem they've been having. That's where they've had the worst issues.
Well, there was someone who mentioned, might have been Tyler actually that we talked about earlier, that if you bring Cornelius Lucas in, you're best to bring him onto the left side because that's where he's the most effective.
Right.
He always had been in skin and then push Leno to the right side. That might be the one thing you could do. But the problem is Philadelphia is the most dominant where up the center. Jalen Carter and Jordan. I mean, they're two nose tackles that just completely collapse your interior offensive line. That's what you need to fix, and you have nothing there to fix it.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's a huge, like, there aren't roster moves you can make. They don't seem to know what to do scheme wise. And I'm not going to pretend to be a X's and O's line blocking scheme guy, but they aren't either. So it's just mind blowing what they can do to fix the line. The only other thing I think, and they're not going to do it again, just keep running the ball. Keep Sam Howell upright a little bit. Flip the script, Eric. Like 2-to-1 run to pass ratio. Just get it over with.
I mean, that's how
this game.
That's how they won Monday night last year, even though they averaged, I think it was like 3.9 yards a carry last year in that Monday night game when they beat them. But the thing is you kept running the ball. And in third or short situations, you were winning those situations in that game because you ran the ball.
Control the clock. Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah.
So is Washington going to win this game or what?
No.
Is it going to be blowout? Maybe is it time for predictions?
Yeah, it's time for predictions, and I got one more prediction thing we'll do.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I will go first on this one because I have a guy who worked, diehard Eagles fan, but he bets all the time. And he's usually very good on when he's calling these games. And when he called this matchup, he said, and I'm going to go by what he said, this is going to be a very close game, down to the wire game. Washington's going to cover the points and everything. And he even says it's probably going to be like a 24-22 game. But I tell him you're out of your mind. It's going to be a double-digit loss. But his view as an Eagle fan and a bettor is more optimistic than mine. So I'll go with his 24-22 Eagles.
Okay.
All right. Interesting logic to use a gambler's thing.
Well, see, he also looks at the fact that they're going to be looking ahead to the Cowboys game, too. I meant to mention that the week after that. So this could be that letdown game by the Eagles. But because of how bad we are, we're not going to be able to take advantage of it.
And don't forget, though, this is on, off. This would be an on week if history holds.
And maybe
which is exactly what he was talking about, too. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Miami tuckered them out a little.
Okay, I'm going to go. I'll go next. I'm going to say Philadelphia wins the game. But I think it's going to be something along the lines of 27-20. A respectable showing, not a total blowout.
I understand the logic in thinking, the up-down nature of this team. I think that what we saw this week, little things from the fan base, from even players like Jonathan Allen was cursing up a storm afterwards, after the game last week. I think the tide's turning on Rivera, and they won't say it, but I think he is starting to lose the locker room a little. So I'm going to guess that this is not a close game. Okay. I'm going to say something along the lines of 28-13 kind of loss.
I'm with you on that one.
The floor will fall out on fan support if that happens.
Right. Okay, so here's your two follow-up questions.
Okay.
Steve, I'm going to ask you again, what will the sack total be?
Oh, that we've got to get 8 because we got to get back on track for 100. So I'm going to go with 8.
Okay. And for Dave, will they actually run the ball more than 20 times?
More than 20 times? I'm just hoping they run it more than 10 times.
I think you're setting your over and under way too high, Alex.
Yeah, way too high.
Okay, all right. What do you think it's going to be? Under 10?
I say under 15.
Under 15? Okay.
Under
I
15.
think 15 is over under for that one. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you guys, I mean, since we're at the midpoint of the season, we did our, pre-season prediction for win totals and stuff like that. I didn't look up what we had
I'm
predicted.
at 100% right now.
Oh, you've guessed them all correctly?
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm at 100%.
You might be. I could go back and find the podcast and listen to it.
I believe I'm right at the 4-3 mark at this part with the final record. I think of like 8 wins. But I'll be honest with you, I think they might get 2 more wins the rest of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
I think I published
was
a
the most
column about
optimistic.
this.
I said 9 wins. I'm with you. I think this is a 5-win team.
If you give me a second, I think I published a prediction column. Let me look it up here real fast.
Yeah, because right now I think the Patriots are better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
They're not great, but they're better than Washington. I think the Rams are actually much better than I thought the Rams were going to fall off this year, and I was completely wrong on that. So that was a win right there. I think they're not going to get now.
Okay.
Okay.
So I've got my predictions. So my prediction column that I published on September 5th was Washington beats Arizona, beats the Broncos, loses to Buffalo, loses to Philadelphia, loses to the Bears, wins Atlanta, loses to the Giants. So I think I got them all. I got them.
Yeah, you're on the money.
Yeah.
All right. So are you sticking with your win total then, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't remember what my win total was.
I think you were at 6, if I remember correctly.
I thought it was 7, actually.
Let me go to the end here.
I
had
6
and 11.
Steve was the most pessimistic, and I was the most optimistic.
At 6 and 11 is what I had.
Okay.
So the wins I had going forward, I've got originally in the beginning of the year, I had win in the Giants in week 11. I had beat Miami. That looks like a ridiculous prediction now, perhaps, but that's what I predicted. And I had beat the Rams. That's what I had.
The Rams, I think, is still a winnable game.
Yeah. My Dolphins aren't, but yeah.
No, we're not beating the Dolphins.
But your boy was 7-0.
No, you've got it. You've got a hot streak going there.
Not only that, but I actually think I called every game more or less right. I said Washington in a solid win over Arizona, close loss to Denver, lost to Buffalo big.
Well, we beat Denver though.
Sorry, I meant Washington win in a close game.
Okay.
Yeah, and then big loss to Buffalo. A squeaker, I said lost to Philadelphia in a close game, lost to the Bears in a squeaker, solid win in Atlanta. It lost to the Giants in a squeaker, so I kind of blew the Giants one a little bit. Wasn't a squeaker, but I was really close. This is one of my better years.
It was a 1-score loss. It was.
Well, I wouldn't call it a squeaker though, but
no, it was just a low-scoring, ugly game.
But I was pretty much dead on.
Well, you blew the Bears prediction though.
No, I didn't.
Hey, you said they would lose in a squeaker. They didn't lose in a squeaker.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it wasn't a squeaker. You're right. Yeah. Fair enough. But I still claim I hit the win-loss thing right though.
Yes, you did.
It was a thorough thrashing.
I would call myself 5-2 on like the type of game. I had 7-0 prediction, about 5-2 on. This is a pretty good prediction.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By my standards.
And well, even a pro, like one of these pro guys who does it on TV, they don't get 7 weeks in with most teams.
I got news for everybody. Those guys are just guessing like we are, okay?
Oh, sure.
They're not. They're just like babbling like we were doing.
Well, and half of them are just doing it to troll people now. They're not even guessing honestly. They're just trying to create clickbait.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have people behind the scenes doing the homework for them, and they just grab a piece of paper and just look at it.
Yes.
That's it.
There's no paper, Dave. It's a teleprompter.
That's true. Yes, you're right. Technically, you are correct.
And that's kind of correct. All right, guys, that should wrap us up for this week's episode.
It's gone off the rails at this point.
Yeah. No, not that much. No more than usual. We will talk to you all next week in November. So see you all then.
Take it easy.